Hello, good people of the internet. Today I'm going to do something slightly different. Gwent released its 11.8 patch notes today, and I thought, even though I'm a noob, why not talk through some of those changes, and you can therefore get a noob's perspective. I don't know why you would want such a thing. However, a few streams ago when the 11.7 changes were announced, or those new cards were coming out, people were, well, I say people, one person asked. So at least one person may be interested. I'm going to, yes, we're going to talk through the changes, starting with the cards which I know the most, and working our way down to cards which I haven't even seen before. Starting with Squirtle, so if you know anything about me and my other videos, then you'll see I'm playing with a Squirtle deck at the moment. The Hostage Taker is not a card that I have used, because my deck is not trap focused. And my understanding on the change here is that the power has changed from 3 to 4. So these I'm showing you here on the Gwent website. In fact, if I refresh, has it changed? No. So they haven't changed it on playgwent.com. But this power will be changing from 3 to 4. Does that make a huge difference? Well, it's still 5 provision. If I had a trap deck, would I use this card? Probably. But I suppose it provides it with a little extra value when you're actually going to use it. The rest of the value is kind of from being able to seize an enemy unit based on number of traps that you play, and it being an Elven Deadeye. So having one extra power from it probably doesn't do too much to make you want to use it. But like I said, I don't really know too much about trap decks and if this would fit very well into that. I mean, obviously this fits into a trap deck. I don't know if this would help going from 3 provision to 4 provision. No other thoughts on this card. Next up then, the Northern Realms changes. So I think there were 2. There was King Demavend, and the other one was the Onager. Yes. I mean, I have them in order. So King Demavend first. His cooldown has changed from 2 to 4. And there were changes in Northern Realms that I was hoping for. Maybe this was one of them. I don't really know. I felt like something needed to change. Either his provision needs to go up, or this power itself needed to change. He was definitely being used quite a lot. The cooldown going from 2 to 4 probably weakens it somewhat without nerfing it too much. So I think it's still, it's still going to be worth 13 provisions or something like that. Haven't played Northern Realms, so I don't really know too much. If the people playing this card are thinking, going to think this is terrible. The other change for Onager is to change the provision cost from 4 to 5. And this is something that I was saying. So when I was watching someone else's stream and the conversation of Onager being really powerful came up, to me, because it's an order ability, well, no, something which when something happens, you damage an enemy unit by 1. So you're getting that 1 benefit. And the whole way that siege engines work is by using all the order abilities all the time. You're getting a lot of benefit from that 4 provision. And it was kind of along the lines of, I don't know what his name is, but there's a Northern Realms guy who has a shield, and he will damage you by 1 whenever it gets boosted, right? So it's along those same lines, and he was 5 provision. So I was saying the Onager should probably be 5 provision to match. Anyway, it is now 5 provision. So I guess they listened to me, or they just, did it themselves because I don't know anything. Up next then are the Monsters cards. Lord Reptide. The armor has changed from 0 to 2, so there's no armor on the card at the moment. But the ability changes, so this says with Might at the end of the turn, 1 in hand gain 2 armor. That's going to change to say 1 in hand gain 1 armor. And this is, so it's all well in hand, is it? Yeah. I can't see a note on the saying that it's not going to be like wherever it is. So it means that if you're playing it immediately, then you're going to get more armor. But if you're waiting a few turns, then you're going to be getting less armor. Is that a huge change? No, but it might be that it's easier to knock down and therefore not have might. But then if you're getting the might change from it, then I don't know. I don't know if this change really affects this card. I don't know why they attacked this card. There was the belt. Is it the belt with Echo? Again, sorry, I don't know the names of things. There's a belt with Echo somewhere. And that, I think, is much more powerful. Given this is an 8 provision 10-point card, which has armor as well, and clashes and does all that stuff, I don't think they've changed it that much, but maybe there was some armor thing that they were aware of that I wasn't. Spontaneous Evolution. There's a few changes on this one. The boost has changed, so instead of it being boosting by 4, it boosts it by 5. I think no one was really using this card a lot anyway, so that's probably why they've done that. If it's a beast, it's going to be 8 boosted instead of... No, it's already 8. It's going to be 9 instead of 8. And instead of 4/5. And also, if you're boosting an Ogroid, it used to give all Ogroids in your hand 2 armor, and they're going to change that to be so that it spawns a Necker on the boosted units row instead. So you're not going to get extra armor from Spontaneous Evolution. This is probably something that maybe they forgot about. Maybe they were getting so much armor in the hand because you can play a Necker, you can play Spontaneous Evolution. And if you have 8 other Ogroids in your hand, you have just gained 16 armor in its current state. So maybe they thought that's too powerful. Maybe they've seen a couple people do that. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. We're going to do neutral ones next because break up the factions and the neutrals, I suppose. To a card I don't know if I've actually seen. I think that's maybe one of the reasons why they've done this. So the change on this card, Cosimo Malaspina, is they are changing the provision cost from 9 to 7. And they're probably saying it wasn't being used, and now they're going to see if this does use it. Does this make it a usable card? So the ability, what is this ability? Transform adjacent units into random units that cost 1 provision more. Were they going to put a limit on that, or is there a limit on that? I have a feeling, was it this card or something else? Maybe it's something else. If there is a provision limit on it, why would you not just, if you're putting this next to a 4 and 5 provision point card, why not just save the 9 provision and get a better 5 and 6 provision point card? Or if you're putting it next to, I don't know, a 9, maybe there's a really good 10 unit card that will come out of it. Maybe that makes it really interesting if you have a 12 and you know that King Demavand is the 13 and the only 13, that you would be able to transform your 12 into King Demavand and end up with 2. Something along those lines. But then you've transformed your 12 and it's also random. So you'd have to work out which unit was going to be the one that it transforms into. It's certainly interesting that they're looking to try and make people play it. That's why it's going from 9 to 7. I don't know if it actually will. Next up is... this was the one with the provision cost. I did take a quick look at these when I was loading up the pages, but... Anyway, so the Blue Dream, Han Marvin's Blue Dream. Play a unit from your opponent's graveyard with a provision cost of 9 or less and give it doomed. Their change on this one is again the provision cost. They're changing it from 12 down to 10 provision. And so for 10 provision, you are getting a unit of 9 provision or less from another faction, which may or may not have any synergies with your own deck. It still doesn't sound enticing. Why would you spend 10 provision to get a different card when you could spend the actual provision, 9 or less, to get it yourself. And the only reason to do so is if you know there is a card in every deck that you want from a different faction. So if you're playing, monsters and you're looking for that key Scoia'tael card to flesh out your deck, it's going to be very niche, I think, to be like, oh, I want this Scoia'tael card, because it may not be in your opponent's deck at all. It may also be because it's from the graveyard that they don't play that card until the third round, in which case it's not going to be in the graveyard until the very end of the game, or deep into that round. So again, even though they've reduced the provision from 12 to 10, I don't see it as a really useful thing, but I could be wrong. Iris von Everett, who on deploy gives an allied unit 4 vitality. They are changing in quite a lot of ways, I think. So the power's changing from 5 to 6. Provision cost changes from 6 to 8. And the ability also changes to be, at the end of your turn, if this card is in your graveyard, boost all units in your deck by 1, then banish self. Very different to just giving 1 unit vitality. And the fact that it can, well, depending on how early you do this, you could, if it's in your starting hand, without putting it onto the battlefield, push it straight into your graveyard and boost your entire deck. Which means every card of yours is going to be boosted. Which isn't, you're then going to be playing 15 cards. If you then play for a short round 1, maybe you're going to play for like 13 other cards, which are going to be in your deck. And even then, maybe not. Like, that's kind of the maximum value you can get from her, I think. 13 points for 8 provision. But that may be good if you're then pushing some cards beyond easy reach of, some other control. Again, I think they're making this card more interesting. I don't know what kind of deck it would suit, but it's nice that it's changing, I guess. If this is a card they see no one using, they're just like, well, let's make it completely different. Definitely in its current state, it looks unusable. Well, not very useful anyway. Next up then is Mandrake, which resets a unit. And the change here is 8 provision down to 6. So they're making it a lot cheaper to reset a unit, which if someone has, I think the example they gave was if someone has purified your defender, then you can reset the unit and it will get its defender status back. Which for 6 provision is maybe cheaper than the defender itself. And there may be other uses to reset things, but again, it's maybe niche, but again, I think their idea is to make it more enticing to see if they can get players to use this card. But I don't know of any good uses, personally, because I don't know a lot of things, because I'm a noob. Sienna. Again, I think I saw this card recently. It probably beat me quite heavily. The order on this is to repeat the deployability for the next unit you play during this turn, and they're changing the provision of this from 12 down to 10. And this looks pretty dangerous because there are some very strong deployabilities out in the game. And being able to do them twice more easily is potentially game-breaking. Maybe, again, they were seeing no one using this and they just want to entice people to doing it. I can't think of any... I mean, okay, let's talk one of the cards we've already seen today, King Demavand. If you got to repeat his deployability, would that be useful? I don't know, banishing 3 cards is his deployability, so probably not. But it'll allow you to choose more. I don't know. Or what other units have good deployabilities? I don't know, lots. So the Scoia'tael deck that I have at the moment has Heist, which has Cargo, which kind of allows you to replay the whole card, which refreshes the points, and also then you get the deployability again. So this is kind of the light version of Heist, and maybe that's why they've reduced it from 12 points provision down to 10. The Heist ability on that, sorry, is it 13 13 provision for heist. I don't know, I could go look it up. But anyway, it's kind of like in that region, so I guess it's around the same strength. But also it doesn't mean you don't have to like do it on separate turns. This will just do it on one turn for you. Anyway, next up, we're moving on to Skellige. I don't know too much about the Skellige cards. I have obviously played against them. I don't recall playing against Jutta and Dimon. And what are they changing here? They're changing the power from 12 to 13, the provision cost from 7 to 6. I think this is because there's another card somewhere which has a similar ability and was, you know, more enticing from its points to provision. So they're just making this a better card. If you like Skellige Warrior, then presumably this is a good change and you're happy about it. Don't know. Haven't really seen this card, I don't think. Kea Trolled, which is changing from 9 provision up to 10. I think I have seen this played against me quite a few times. It gets resilience, it creates and plays a bronze Uncrate unit, and it has an order. All of these things, the order giving 6 armor and clashes. Like, they've all, I think when I've seen this card in the past, it's looked powerful because it does create a unit and do this ability. So, yeah, maybe 9 provision was fair. I don't know. It's now 10 provision. I still don't know. The Uncrate Armorsmith, who deploys, will boost an allied unit by the amount of armor on the highest armor unit in your hand. So if you have an armor unit of 5 in your hand, it's going to boost an allied unit by 5. And they're changing his power from 2 to 4, and his provision cost down from 5 to 4. So he's going to be a 4 power for 4 provision. But they're also changing his deployability to be boosting an allied unit by 1 for every 2 armor on the highest armor unit in your hand. So they're kind of halving this deployability. So they're making it a bit weaker. So if you have actually, I don't know if it rounds up. Probably does, because I guess the damsel rounds up. If you have a unit in your hand of 5 armor, then that'll either do a boost of 2 or a boost of 3. That's how I read that. So yeah, it seems like, I mean, I think this was played against me quite a few times. Did I struggle against it? Maybe a little bit. But I mean, it's one of the smaller cards. It does mean that it's still, well, it's still going to do its deploy thing, and it's going to sit on the board for you with a few more provision. But it's just not going to do as much on that the boost that it's going to do for you. I don't know if it's a big or bad change, really. The Funeral Boat is definitely one where I'm glad that they have made this change. The current text is, whenever a card enters either graveyard, damage a random enemy unit by 1. And their change to this is to change the ability so that it only triggers during the owner's turn. And there was definitely something which happened during my most recent stream, and maybe the one before, where somehow my opponent ended up with several Funeral Boats. And every time I played, even playing a Karathi Heatwave against, so if they have 3 Funeral Boats, you playing a Heatwave to get rid of one of them, or a Parasite, or whatever it is the other 2 are going to react because your spell artifact card is going to go straight into your graveyard, and you're going to get 2 damage back onto yourself. And as my Waylay spam deck is filled with those sorts of things, my end point slam Waylay spam thing, if there's Funeral Boats on the other side, will be getting taking a lot of damage. And I think they saw that this was probably too powerful for a 4 provision card. And there's another similar thing around which maybe is doing similar entering graveyard, not entering graveyard, but only on your turn does it do those things. So I think this is a good change. I think it will improve my life against Skellige decks. as well, because this is a very powerful 4 provision card, and the only other way to deal with this would have been to up it to like 5 or 6 points or something. Maybe. That's my opinion. But they've done it this way, so I'm still happy. Nilfgaard next, the Imperial Marine. I have seen this a few times against me, and their change here, if I can find it, provision cost changed from 4 to 5. And again, ability here is flanking, yeah, this was when I was doing having lots of flanking things happen against me. Its end of turn trigger ability is triggered twice if it's got flanking. Otherwise, on the range row, it gains armor. So at the end of the turn, move it up by 1 position in your deck. If it's on the top, boost itself by 1 instead. And if it's on the top of their deck, it will be doing this twice. Oh no, that's not what it's going to be doing, surely. You can't have it in your deck. Oh, sorry. We're talking about a different card. Yeah, choose a card from your deck and then move that up and then boost it. And if it's flanking, then it's going to be moving it up twice and boosting it if it's on the top twice. And if you have 2 of these and you choose the same card, then it moves it up really quickly and will boost it by 4 each turn. Anyway, again, similar to the Onager change, I think it makes sense, given some other things which can do a lot of, I don't know, have a lot of points value. So this one, even though it's only a 4 for 4, it has a lot of points value if it's used correctly. So yeah, it being 5 provision, I think makes sense. Whether it ruins people's Nilfgaard decks, I don't know. Haven't played as Nilfgaard yet. And then onto the Syndicate. Everyone knows I didn't really understand the Syndicate yet. Captain Iago, his change is a provision cost from 13 to 11, so he just becomes a bit cheaper. Presumably they were saying again he wasn't being used enough. I think if you were looking to do a Syndicate parity deck, this makes sense. The next one, the Asha Rancher, I don't know how to say it, Acherontia, who knows? They've changed the Vice requirement up from 10 to 12. And it doesn't actually say Vice here, which is interesting. But Vice, if I'm not wrong, is the amount of gold you needed to spend this turn, or just spend, and it has a counter. And every time you reach that, it will then play this ability automatically. So presumably, if you have this out and you pay, 10 gold, then you get to play your top card from your deck, which is very, very powerful. So they have decided 10 is too small, and I would agree, because it's very easy for Syndicate people to have money and spend it. I've seen many decks against me get lots and lots of money and spend all the money. So being able to play lots and lots of cards just because of this thing seems, very powerful. And for 12 provision, it should be a powerful thing, but maybe it was too powerful, is what they were saying. And then the last card was the Asha Rancher Deckhand, which the provision and the points card of the card are the same, and the Vice is the same, but they are adding a Profit 1, which is going to get you a coin when you play it. Which I think, if they're ruining the Asha Rancher a bit, they maybe want to improve the other things. And yeah, maybe it just makes sense to add a bit more coin into that system. I'm not too sure it's going to change it a huge amount, but they just wanted to try it, I guess. Anyway, this was my rambling thoughts on the 11.8 patch notes. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a like. If you want to see more like this, especially, let me know, because, there aren't going to be too many of these changes until the end of Gwent, or, Gwentfinity happens, or, whatever else. But, yeah, a like will definitely inform me that this was useful to you. Hopefully, I mean, I don't think it's that useful because I'm a noob and I know nothing, but whatever. If you're here for the first time, check out some of the my whole noob journey. It's there in a playlist somewhere. And yeah, please subscribe if it's something you want to see more of. And I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day wherever it is you are. Thanks, and goodbye.